Boys that are here, which may be the only people that are here.
James.
So, James.
James
Yeah.
Watkins here.
James, yep. Okay. We have one council member out of town, the mayor's out of town, and we have one council member stuck in Bayway traffic. So, Jill, you kick us off, please.
Okay, the mayor wanted me to speak to anything in general admin. We're not going to go line by line, but if there is something in particular that you guys want to see that jumps out at you, I have asked all the supervisors to be here and be prepared to answer any questions you have. So if y'all want to start with general admin, that's where we'll begin.
These are two-sided council.
Yes.
That's 9. We're on the same page. Is that page 9?
I don't know what your page 9 is.
Not like the expenses on general government.
Yeah.
So that we're all on the same page.
Got page 9, I got page 14.
Oh, you're right, and then it says that under insurance, that goes under general admin, so we'll go over there. 14.
You got, what's your latest update? What's the date on yours?
There were two different versions. There was a updated version, and I
August
don't
27th.
think Jack was here for that meeting.
I still don't have it. No, that didn't look right. That didn't look right.
Yeah.
You have a copy, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a copy of this
Okay.
ASAP too.
Sure.
Yeah, that looks like my page 9.
Okay.
These numbers, from what I had, haven't, I mean, I'm assuming they haven't changed. There may be a line here or there, right?
Right. For the most part, they have not.
Okay.
The changes were on that front sheet.
I got questions about personnel, but that's gonna be more mayor answering, right?
I mean, you can ask the question.
Yeah, pretty much everybody under that general government. Purchasing administrative assistant,
Right.
city clerk assistant, HR clerk, IT systems administrator, have several IT positions.
Right.
Accounts payable specialist,
Mhm.
accounting,
Mm-hmm.
accounting manager.
Right. I will say, before we talk about the positions, that 4 of the department heads or 4 of the supervisors have come to the conclusion that they do not need the positions. And in your book, on tab 15, we have marked through the ones that are not needed. There are 4. So that will help out a little bit.
Why on that, while we're looking at that, that's a good place, that tab, if you look at the police requests, it only shows 3 being reimbursed by county, because that's additional. I mean, there'll be 5 that'll be reimbursed up to that
Right.
amount. By
Those are
by
the
county.
those are the new ones.
ones.
We already have 2 in place.
But we are showing that revenue from the county somewhere in revenues to offset the expenses of all 5 of those school resource officers?
Yes.
Okay. Robert, are you still on page 14? Did you go back to 13 as well? I think that may start on 13.
Yeah.
If the, where are we accounting for all the overages on our legal fees under attorney? We're showing 30,000, and we know that we are far exceeding that number.
Where are you? I'm
On
sorry.
page 13.
That is just the retainer for the attorney. We've got legal,
You got legal also?
legal
Okay.
expenses
Okay, there we
down,
go.
yeah.
Yep.
Dang it.
I just need some justification on all these additional hires.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, let's get the people who have requested them up here to justify those
Yeah,
positions.
I think when we get to those individual departments, do you have any that you want to, that maybe you just want to go about
Maybe
in
we can go
general?
through the general government.
I guess,
Is
yeah,
that what you
general
want to do?
government, right.
Okay. Let's start with the purchasing administrative assistant. Mike, can you come up? And he's going to go over the purchasing administrative assistant and the accounts payable specialist.
Okay, the purchasing administrative assistant is simply an upgrading of the classification of an existing employee. So that's not an additional position. It will add just under $6,000 to the cost of that employee.
How's the employee listed now?
In,
That
as
particular employee?
a clerk. Yeah.
Let me
And
just stop for a second. Jill, is that reflected somewhere in the budget that is just a change in classification?
Yes,
Yep.
it is. It's in the salary figure for
Yep.
general admin salaries.
yeah. And this request actually originated when Jillian was here. She actually has a memo to me that I asked her to write, and it lays out the justifications for requesting this upgrading of this position, and I agreed with her. So,
Okay. Is the job description, the changes with the,
yeah, there's
And
an upgraded job description.
and it's in the book.
And one of the considerations was that this, you know, we spent a good period of time last year and early this year without a purchasing manager, and she basically stepped in and did the role. And so that, and plus Jillian's observations of her performance, that's what kind of led to this. And again, I totally agree. I'd actually ask her to write the memo because she was the one that was closest to her and could see what she was doing.
accounts payable specialist?
Yeah, I spent a year looking at my department, if you want to call it that. And the conclusion I came to was the same conclusion I had really in the first few months, is there is more work that needs to be done than 2 people at 40 hours a week can get done. And that was further, 2 points to illustrate that sold it for me, that made me know that we needed an additional person. Number one is when I came in, we were kind of behind with our AP, and so we worked to catch up. And by March and April, we were pretty much on top of it. All right, then between the two employees, about 3 weeks of vacation happened over a 2-month period. And that knocked us for a loop. And then that was repeated in August, September. There's just no way. The second thing that I can point to show that is Iselin has been here about 2.5 years. One of the things that Belinda was going to try to do, wanted to do from the very beginning, was to basically teach Iselin her job and the things that she did. Well, we went 2.5 years, and literally there has been no time for her to do hardly anything along those lines. So there's just more work to do than 2 people can do. Now, one of the things I was going to do with this person, and I made a note somewhere in here about that, was I was going to, I don't know that we need 40 hours a week, but I also know that Jillian also asked for some hours a week extra from somebody. So my intent is to kind of move that person, AP, purchasing, as the need goes. I'm kind of thinking maybe 3/4 and 1/4 of their time. So that way I kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I give purchasing a little bit more help in what they need, and then also I create enough, I relieve enough pressure so that we can do things like let Belinda have the time to teach Iselin the things that she does. So, and like I said, you know, Iselin's been here 2.5 years, and literally they have not had a chance to do that, because once you get in that situation where Belinda is teaching Iselin her job and the things that she does, that means Iselin's job is not getting done. And so it was just, it hasn't happened. It couldn't have happened because of the staffing.
Accounting manager.
I can go over that one. That one's mine.
Okay,
Um,
I'm sneaking away.
I have, I personally, my job has led me to, work more closely on the budget, kept me very, very, very busy throughout the year, nonstop. And my right-hand person has taken on a lot more responsibility. She is issuing all the financials every month by herself. And she's taken on so much. She's doing so much of the day-to-day that I've been taken away from. And I just feel like, we need to compensate her for that and give her the designated title to go along with that.
What's taking you away from your day-to-day?
This budget has become a year-long process. I am not kidding you. Audit is busy, but budget has become unbelievable. And I'm needed, in meetings and stuff that, I haven't done in the past.
Year-long? Budget's year-long?
I started the spreadsheets in April.
I'm not doubting you. I'm
Yeah.
just getting the facts.
Yeah. Busy.
Okay.
And then Jeff, can you come up to speak about your positions?
The accounting manager, that's a promotion as well.
Yes,
Yep.
that's correct.
So that's
We
an
would
upgrade?
eliminate the position that she holds now, so it would just be the difference. It would just be the promotion amount.
All right.
The accounting manager will need an assistant next year.
Maybe not. We had it in there and we struck through it, so.
Okay, so IT, currently we have 3 employees total. Just to kind of give you an idea of how much we're doing, we went live with our work order system back in, I believe, May. As of today, Public Works has done 266 work orders. Gas Department's done 809. Electric's done 423. IT has done 1,076. And that's three of us supporting about 300 employees, whereas utilities and Public Works are supporting the entire city. We are just basically overwhelmed with work at this point. And I want to add a network administrator and system administrator to give my current employees a way to move forward. Right now, I have Sean, who's been with me for about 6 years, has been in the same position for 6 years. He has no career path right now, so I wanted to create a position for him to move into. After we lost one employee, that kind of left a gap for a network administrator, and I've been fulfilling that role, and that's pretty much a full-time job, keeping the network up and going and secure. So I want to add a network admin position just to dedicate to that. As far as the communications person, it's to take care of these meetings. Today, I mean, just this week, we've had to record and get online 3 meetings, and that takes us away from assisting others. So this person's going to be in charge of recording meetings, taking care of meetings, as well as taking care of the website, keeping it up to date, as well as keeping up the phone system. Right now, we don't have a dedicated telephone admin. I'm taking that role as well. My guys have done a good job of learning the system as well, but we need somebody dedicated to handle phone system needs. Because currently, I'm afraid of actually going out of town if something were to happen to the phone system. I'm basically the only one that can really bring it up from a down standpoint, because I basically put the thing together myself 4 or 5 years ago. I just want somebody specialized in that I can, take that load off of me. So those are the 3 positions that I'm asking for.
You mentioned that you had lost someone. Has that position been filled, or do you have a vacant position? You said there's 3 of you now.
Right.
Is there 4 positions, 1 unfilled, or are there?
No, there's 3 of us total. We were fortunate enough to get Laura from the police department, who has, just turned out to be outstanding in information technology. So we're fortunate for her to move over and take Tanner's spot. But she's doesn't have the background in network administration like Tanner did. She is just excels in IT help desk. Break and fix computers.
So with her, you have 3.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And I want to add, when our new auditors came in this past year, they took IT as an example and did an audit of personnel for IT, and that was just one example. But their recommendation was that we have 1 person for every 50 employees, and right now we're only covering 150 employees, whereas if we add 3 more, that will get us up to where, according to our audit.
Yeah, that was
audits can tell you a lot of things that, you can get into. Is it 300 engineers they're trying to manage it, or are there, 100 people that work that don't have a computer too? Did they compare apples to apples? And I'm just saying that you can make statistics say anything you want them to. So it's kind of like the FBI statistics that we keep getting quoted that say we're supposed to have so many people, per, number of people that we have, and our police.
Every one of our employees pretty much carries a piece of technology in their hand, either by radio or mobile phone.
Right. Okay.
They use doors. We're constantly having to change door access for them. It's just because they are on a sanitation vehicle doesn't mean that they don't interact with us.
That they're not using IT. Okay.
Yeah, and it'll just greatly increase too. If we want to start tracking routes of garbage vehicles and stuff, everybody's going to have a computer in their vehicle at some point in time. It's just a matter of time.
When's the last time you added a person? How many years has it been since you?
I've been here 7 years. So
You've had 3 for 7 years?
3.
Y'all have any more questions for Jeff? Jay, we were back on, in your binder, we're on tab 15, and when we were going through the admin budget, which is pages 13, 14 in your large printout.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Robert, do you want to talk about the judicial and revenue, since those are also general? No? All right, the second, okay.
I want to address legal while we're here at council, just while we're in a work session, is that we have got to find a way to reduce our legal fees. And I think we're going to have to tweak the contract or adopt a new contract for our litigator that is doing work, in my opinion, well outside the scope of what they were hired to do. And I think that we're getting double charged. We're getting our litigators charging not for litigation, but for everything from writing a letter to League of Municipalities, which is a city attorney's job, I believe, to you name it. Anybody else feel we need to cut these costs significantly?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think we need to have we need to either negotiate a new contract or, lay down the law and say, we're not going to pay you for things which aren't in the contract. That's got to stop. We're bleeding, we're hemorrhaging money there. Jay, I know you might be.
As a fellow lawyer, I'm going to stay out of lawyers charging legal fees.
Baby needs new shoes.
But for this,
Talk about us from a council
from the city's
person.
perspective, I mean, we need to avoid any excess costs, and if we consider it to be excess or a double charge, then we need to look at it and we need to get it under control.
Do you think we have those excess costs now?
I haven't looked through the bills enough, but I mean, if that's something that we think is necessary, then I think we should do it.
Have you seen them, Robert?
Yes.
Do you think they're excessive?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. All right.
Police?
You want to go
Are you-
through those positions now, Robert?
Now, I guess we keep going through the general government.
Yeah.
Okay. Any line items that jump out at you?
I wish, is Jeff available again? Hey, Jeff, let me get you back up here on that. I started to ask you. We're talking about technology, and I know that we're living in a technology age, but, and we're gonna always have to spend more, it seems like every year, but we have a request for about a 20% increase over last year's projected amount. Is $100,000 in computer expense budgeted or requested versus a projected about 79,000, so call it 80, so a 20% increase. If you go back to 2017, it was 27, 2016, 34. What is in there that's causing that to jump so high? Do you know?
Is that
I'm
the
pull-
general fund
Mhm.
computer
Yeah,
budget?
yes.
The
I'm pulling it up right now.
the big item is the 45 around $45,000 Munis support charge. Then we've got another $20,000 Kronos support charge. And so as we add new systems, we've got to pay for the support.
All right,
That would be under
Kronos is how
services,
much?
right?
This is 20,000.
Would that be under
20,000?
computer expense or under services? Municipal.
It's always come out of my computer, that 50300.
Okay.
Yeah.
50300, and you said Munis was 45 and Kronos was 20?
Right.
Okay.
And
Well, but
then
that was in last year's as well, and that was the same cost last year?
I'm a little over budget this year.
I don't see, it looks like you're right on budget.
Within 100.
I don't think the check for the Munis support's gone through yet.
You've got the VMware view
Oh, right. I'm sorry. The VMware View. That our auditors pointed this out that we have no way to manage our mobile devices, so I can't ensure that they're up to date and secure. I'm sorry. I should have brought my computer over.
It's 11.
Also, I have no way to ensure that desktop computers are up to date and patched. So with this product, will allow kind of a one-screen view of all devices, and to make sure that they're up to date and patched. Right now, I have no way to do that. I don't have a patch management system, so this will give me the ability to do that.
What is that, Jill? You have it,
11,000.
11.
And then there's the Adobe Creative Cloud.
Adobe Creative Cloud, right? So each supervisor has a copy of Adobe Acrobat. Allows them to electronically sign documents without having to send paper up and down the road in a vehicle. It's worked out pretty well. Also, the IT staff, the mayor, and I believe there was one other person that has the full suite of Adobe products, the Premiere Pro, the Adobes, the Photoshops. That allows me to, basically put these meetings together and do graphics for them and edit graphics for the website as well.
So which ones of these are new, Jill?
That Adobe Creative Cloud.
How much was that?
That was 7,200. And
Okay, that's close to the 20 right there.
and
The
the
11 is the VMware
is
new?
brand new. Hmm.
Okay, that's 18.2 of 20.
Also, we've added this year a second, basically a cold spare firewall. So we're going to have to pay basically double support for our firewall, which is an additional, I'm going to say roughly $12,000 extra a year. But that's a vital piece of equipment.
Okay.
Also, we're adding training for end users as well. End user security training, how to recognize phishing attacks, malicious websites, basically give them a basic understanding of computer security.
And what is that training? Is that, I get those.
I'm going to have to
as well.
bid that out, basically. I'm going to find put the specs together and bid out. I'm just estimating it could be.
Don't they just have these slideshow things that you sit there and have to flip through and click on it and it,
You get a test at the end. You take a
Yeah.
test at the end to get a certificate.
Right.
And I'm going. We're supposed to require it once a year, and for new employees.
okay. Good news, the medical insurance projection went down.
Yes. Very good.
You guys jump in anytime.
I want to say something. I want to clear something up. Jack, you just mentioned about excess legal fees, and while I'm part joking when I say, I don't want to get in with other lawyers and criticize their fees. I want to make sure that everybody that's listening to this understands the difference, at least from what I mean when I say excess. I don't mean that one firm is charging too much,
Right.
because that means that their rate is what their rate is, and we've agreed to pay that. I think what the issue is there's been duplication of services that we think might be unnecessary, meaning one attorney gives an answer, you're not sure you like it, you go to the other attorney, he gives the same answer, and you pay two attorneys for the same question.
That's right.
I think that's really the issue
That's what I'm alluding to.
that we see.
Right.
Not that anybody's charging us too much, or that there's anything.
Or not that they charge us for work they didn't do or anything like that.
Right. Just that there appears at times at least to be a duplication of services, which can be unnecessary. Sometimes it is necessary, but it's not necessary at all times.
Right. Okay.
Just so that's clear in the record.
Yep. Okay.
Are y'all done with Jeff?
Almost there.
I don't think you're ever done, Jeff.
That's why he needs an assistant.
I got a question, Jeff. As this meter system increases or improves with the utilities, are we gonna have to start paying more and more for these, services that we're?
Well, if we add more modules, the price will increase. I believe in the
There's a
contract,
support
there is a
charges.
yearly small percentage increase per year. Yeah, I mean, if we add more modules, I think we were looking at getting Parks and Rec for next year to help out with the rec center and the golf
And
course.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, it's just something to
Uh-huh.
look at. It's kinda like when you hire an employee, they say, well, the salary's this. Well, it's not just the salary, it's 27% more than the salary due to benefits and everything else that you have to think of. And
Well, the
obviously, we need this Munis system for everything. It's just a function of every time we turn around.
Yeah, it's
Computer
expensive.
costs are way up there.
They treat it. I mean, we're supposed to treat it like that is an employee. That every employee that touches Munis has the ability to call them directly and say, "Hey, I got a question about this.
Yeah.
What does this do? What does this button do?" And so it's basically it takes a place of an employee that we would have to hire to manage that system.
Yeah, that's true enough.
And plus, it gives them access to documentation and training and user training. So that's
Well, basically, without it, though, you lose the checks and balances you have over the system. I mean, you gotta have the Munis system.
oh right.
So it's kind of,
Any other questions about admin? My eyes have kind of wandered into another department by now. Anybody else guilty of that? All right, what's next?
Thought we would do Parks and Rec.
Okay.
That's the next biggest department after PD and Public Works.
All right.
Tom, can you come up, please?
what page we looking at?
Give me that page on this big fold out since I just got it, the new one.
41.
41?
21.
There it should be. Hello, Tom.
Kevin, how are you?
Well,
When we discuss Parks and Rec, it's three different areas that we've kind of put under Parks and Rec. You've got golf, and then you've got the marina. So if y'all have any questions on that, also is the time to do it with Tom.
Okay, right off the top, Tom, I'm just, the zeroed out revenue from tennis. This is a small line item, but it just goes to zero. It says city no longer receiving revenue for the tennis lessons. It goes directly to the instructor.
Right.
And it says projected this year $15,000.
That's what had already been collected once we cut that off.
Is that what it is?
When did we cut it off and why?
Jennifer, do you recall when we stopped collecting that? It was early in the year, but I think there were some issues with the way that had been handled in past years.
I mean, did just somebody made the decision to quit collecting it? Is it?
No, I don't think the way that it was handled before was done accurately.
Okay,
If I could explain
please.
real quickly. The employee handbook, where's the magic button? Thank you. The employee handbook explains that both the golf pro and the tennis pro have lessons on their own, that they do not go through the city, that it goes directly to them.
All right.
And when we realized that in the employee handbook, it was earlier this spring that we changed what had been done, because we were violating the handbook.
So we were holding out money from the tennis pro?
I don't know if we were holding it out, but they were told to send it through the city. And that's not what the handbook says. They're
Could it
go
have been
directly to
because
them.
they were at one time not an employee and they had to pay a franchise fee and then they became an employee of the city?
No.
That didn't
Not
happen?
in this case.
Okay.
But that's why you're going to see both of those line items in golf and in tennis reading the way they do.
Is there anything that we have in there that contradicts the handbook? ordinance for fees or anything like that?
Not to my
That needs to be
knowledge.
cleaned up? 'Cause if there's anything that needs to be cleaned up, let us know so they don't conflict.
I don't believe so. We, go through that and make sure we're doing the right thing. as
I
much
mean,
as
you
we
look
can.
at, look, if you look at actual 2017, there was $33,000 in revenue. I don't know how, if we were profit sharing with them or what, I mean, that's enough to maintain a lot of courts right there.
I have, on tennis revenue in 18, $35,000. But again, all that money for tennis lessons was going back through the city. That's all counted in there.
Should be an expense line for that then too, right? If it was just passing through.
Well, if it's passing through for lessons, it would be going to salary, I guess.
Right,
It was.
that's how we handled it in the past.
Okay. Let's see. So, on the medical insurance for Parks and Recreation, the actuals, if we look at 2016, 17, and then projected 18 are not, they were estimates, not actuals. It says health insurance before was a rough estimate. 2019 includes actual coverage, and it went up by almost 100%.
Mike, would you like to speak to medical insurance as a whole?
Well, some of them went down, and this one went up quite a bit.
Right, but he's got details on all the medical insurance.
So what's happening with with medical insurance, property insurance, casualty insurance, workman's comp is, in the past, we have, number one, we haven't had some of these departments, so the departments are new. We've broken out more departments. But it just in general is, when I went through, I took the total cost of what it was gonna be for medical insurance, for instance, and I literally pulled down the employee list and determined number of full-time employees, what kind of coverage they had, each of them had, family or single, and I allocated that by department, and I got, ratios of the overall total number of employees, et cetera. And then I applied those ratios to the total amount. So I basically started from scratch.
Okay.
And so it's a much more detailed allocation of those costs over the departments. So you've got a combination of that and then also these additional departments that we're doing. So that's kind of what's happening with the property insurance and the medical insurance. So just a brief answer. And I'm gonna sneak away again.
Tom, what new positions, if any, are you asking for this year?
A part-time nursery attendant, just the hours, we're not changing the hours or anything, but with the number of nursery attendants we have, if somebody calls in sick or needs a couple days off, then that leaves us short. So this person won't necessarily put in a lot of hours, it'll just be
Another person to
kinda help
call.
fill in, yeah. And it won't be so hard on the ones that we have. And then, the 20-hour week, trying to stay under 20 hours a week with these people, and someone leaves and goes on vacation, and it's almost impossible to do. And then the group fitness instructor, which is a flat rate of, $20 to $25 an hour, that's just the need for more classes that are coming up. Excuse me. And then, so that, we're just gonna add more classes. And then the lifeguard too, is a full-time position is what we're asking for. And, you know, the pool's open 91 hours a week. And so we've got a manager there, Noah, but again, at 40 hours a week, even when he spreads it out and comes in on weekends and things and gets his 40 hours, he cannot by himself, cover all that. And most of our part-time employees there are, high school, college age, and there just needs a little more supervision on those off times when Noah can't be there, and he can only be there, really half the week, or half the hours that we're open. So there's it's 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the week, and 8 to 6 on Saturday, and noon to 6 on Sunday. It's just a lot of hours to cover, and we need some maturity there to help make sure things are getting done. That's that in Parks and Rec, and I'll let, Jeff, you want to speak to the golf clubhouse, the employees?
Good evening. Yeah, thank you. I've got it memorized. Yeah, what we're looking for, I'll talk a little bit about the snack bar. Snack bar seems to be getting a little busier and busier. We have the new patio, which is going to create some excitement once it's done. And one thing I'd like to do is be able to rent out the patio for functions. I see it as a great amenity for the community. It's certainly going to attract more golf outings, and we're going to need somebody to work those hours at night to service any kind of rentals that we have. And then additionally, very often at the snack bar, on our busy days, we have one person trying to service lunch for upwards of 70, 80 people. And it can be a challenge, and sometimes I get pulled in there to help out, and other employees do as well, which takes away from a different workstation. So, I certainly see that as being a win-win for everybody and a revenue generator. And then the only other ask I have is for cart attendants. We have a couple shifts each week where we have one person trying to service golf outings, tournaments, leagues, the driving range, servicing and cleaning carts. It's too much for one person, and very often we have to leave our workstations to assist them with carts or a cart that might go down on the golf course. So it can be a challenge at times. Having such a small staff at times, if somebody is sick or on vacation or out of town for any reason, that leaves us in a situation where we have nobody to fill in because we have all part-time people working as cart personnel. So most are maxed out at 19 hours per week, so that kind of leaves me in a bind a little bit.
I don't see that on here. I don't see cart attendant on here.
It's,
Cart attendant captain.
yeah, cart captain.
It's stricken through, says not needed at this time on here.
It should be golf cart attendant. We don't need a captain. Initially,
Well, that's what it was.
initially it was a good idea to have a golf cart captain for many reasons. I serve in that role, and I can continue doing that with no issue. But we certainly need at least one more cart attendant
So,
part-time.
yeah, because they struck through the description there, so.
So instead of the captain, you just need the attendant.
Just an attendant.
Okay, so will this numbers, Jill, reflect that? Maybe not. Want to reflect that?
The numbers have the captain already in them, so
Okay.
we would pay the cart attendant less, so it
Yes.
should be covered.
Yeah, certainly would be.
Yeah, the note says 4 new positions, so that includes the runners.
Correct.
Yeah.
When we have these runners, what, if they're split among different departments, what type of transportation do they need? Is it just seasonal that they're split, or I'm visualizing them running between?
Well, I think, the main purpose for these running positions is we've got, the golf course, the rec center, the tennis center, all who have to make deposits every day. And there's not necessarily vehicles at all those facilities. So this person would be responsible for taking the deposits from the facilities, getting them down to City Hall. And then also, if there's something needed from the warehouse, you're pulling a guy off who needs to be doing something else, doing his regular job, and instead of jumping in a truck and driving to the warehouse to get a case of paper towels or toilet papers or cleaning chemicals or whatever. So you're taking a high-paid employee, putting them in an expensive truck and running them downtown when they really need to be either mowing golf greens or mowing football fields or things of that situation. And I think over time that these runners would probably be, as time went on, be valuable to the whole city.
Yeah. I mean, are they
'Cause
going to
there's-
require a vehicle?
No,
Is that in there?
we'll be using existing vehicles for that. There's too many vehicles that just, that we have that sit on a daily basis that they can use.
Mhm. But there's employees who, have to take things from the warehouse to City Hall, and they're having to use their own vehicles, and over time, when things work out, I think this runner position would be a benefit to the entire city, and not just the golf course and rec departments. If I've got, parts in Mobile or parts in Pensacola that I need for a mower, or same with Jeff, again, I have to put a guy in who needs to be doing something else other than, driving a 2-hour round trip over to Pensacola to pick up parts from the Toro dealership.
The thing I worry about in every time we look at this budget is, and I don't dispute that there's a lot of needs. I mean, there's a lot of needs. Everybody has needs. Every department has needs, and we try to meet them. Is that I see expenses, they always seem to go up 10, 15% per year, and eventually that bites you.
Yeah.
Just the 10. I think it's about 13% here. Revenues are projected down. When people are paying for recreation, it's an amenity. They pay for that a lot with their property taxes as well. And property taxes aren't going in under revenue of rec department. So I get that. And this one doesn't bother me as much. But anytime I see expenses going up by double digits, although the city of Fairhope is growing in leaps and bounds, we're not growing at 13% a year. We're growing at a big number, is maybe 3%, 4% even, not even that. But anyway, so that's something I say that to you too, because when the council looks at that, and we try not to zero in, it's real easy to just look at the bottom line and say, oh, well, let's just cut that. That is an option. Sometimes, we could turn it back on you and say, all right, this is growing 13%. If y'all recall, when we interviewed the interim police chief, one of the questions I asked was, what if we told you to cut the budget 5%? What would you do? Because, and we'll get to that police department budget, but that's one that's jumped considerably, this year. So anytime we see that, although it seems kind of small, when you look in terms of percentage, it's not sustainable over the long term. So that's what we're looking at. Anybody have any questions?
Do y'all want to hear about the golf grounds positions?
I skimmed them, yeah.
I was gonna talk about that real quick. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
the crew leader is a position that doesn't exist in golf grounds, but Jeff has, a person who's kind of been doing the work anyway, and again, with the hours that they're open, instead of having one chief and a bunch of workers, there needs to be a second person in charge, because it's a 7-day-a-week operation. I think they only close a couple days a year. And so there's an existing person, if I'm right, Jeff? Existing person that you'd like to promote.
Yes.
And then we need to, we really need another full-time position
person.
out there to look at the details a little bit more and just try to bring the golf course up a notch. And that is going to require another employee.
I think we also had two part-time grounds people in there as well. Because, you know, like I said, the little things is hard to take up right now. There's only 7 of us out there, and 90% of the time I'm on a mower or doing something on a mower that I probably shouldn't be doing. And so some of the weed eating, some of the paying attention to the details that need to happen don't happen because I do not have that 19-hour a week person. I did lose one, but you know, it's hard to even find a 19-hour a week person right now. I mean, the way the economy is going and finding the right person can make that fit,
It has
because
to
they're not
fit in
going
life,
to,
yeah.
and they're not going to, you know, basic, you know, as soon as they find a full-time job somewhere else, they're going to go. So you back to square one. You know, I'm generally out there cutting. My mechanic goes out there and cuts. So you know, so there's times that the things that we should be doing is not happening on a regular basis as it should be.
Just about every time I go out, I catch Jeff on a
Yeah.
tractor or a mower or something.
Yeah. But you know, we've got 100. I mean, we got 25 acres of fairways we cut 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, we're cutting over 100 acres a week with like 3 or 4 people.
Can you cut it shorter on the sides? That's usually where my ball ends.
Well, if you make that suggestion, we'll make sure you tell me, because I get plenty of suggestions on trees. You know, we need to cut that tree down. I always hit it, so we can do that with the roughs as
If
well.
the tree is in the center of the fairway, I've got no shot
Okay.
of hitting it, so you're good.
I don't know, one thing, Jack, I know you were saying about, you know, a percentage. You know, I did request a little more on my expenses, because, you know, there are some tee boxes and some areas that need to be resodded that, you know, we had in the budget last year, and it did not make it through the budget, the entire budget. You know, we did do some of it. I absorbed a lot of it, and we went ahead and done it anyway. But there's some other areas around the golf course where there have been trees taken down, shaded areas that we need to put grass in. There's actual, you know, tee boxes that have gotten so much shade around it that the grass needs to be changed out, because the regular 419 Bermuda will not grow into that shade. So if we want to have good quality turf on those shaded areas, we're going to have to change the turf out and go with a different type. So there are some opportunities there, and that's why that pretty much is probably the only thing that I had increase other than personnel.
Well, if you look at the actuals for clubhouse and grounds, it's not too much different than what it was this year.
No.
But it's quite a departure from 2017, and not really much of a departure from 2016. It's just kind of up and down. And I do think that when you are making an investment in something that does generate revenue, that you can see a reward on that as well, you know, and especially those little things you want to do out there at the course. That people, you know, we'll come back to Quail Creek and play golf if we do the little things.
I even think, you know, with the tractor we purchased last year, along with the aerifier, has made some huge improvements on tees and greens both. So it gives me ability to aerify them at any time when, you know, especially as hot as it is right now, just to get them to breathe. Right now they're so wet and it's so hot, it's just, you know, they're not breathing at all. They just sitting there boiling. I mean, I'm assuming you got soil temperatures 2 inches down at the middle of the day. It's probably 90-something degrees within that soil temperature because it's so wet and holding the heat. So they got to be vented and be aired. So I think that's been a big help, and I really appreciate that.
Y'all have any questions for Rec? Golf, any other questions for Rec? We probably need to go, you want to go through some more on Rec, right?
Capital purchases.
Okay.
You're looking at it.
What page are you on there, Robert?
That would be page
39,
21.
21.
The bottom of 21 shows
Oh, that's just the
capital improvements, yeah, the
total though, right? That was
Yeah,
the
39
That's
is
summary
the-
sheet,
yeah,
257.
39 is the breakdown.
Good job, Jay.
And then you go to 39.
Yeah, that's right.
So race.
One helpful comment.
looks like most of that capital purchases is actually repair to the pool, is that?
It is. It's been a long time. We opened that pool in '04, and we've never replastered the indoor pool, and it's held up real good, but it's starting to show its age. And then so that's a big chore. We'll have to go out to bid for that, and it's you can walk in there and see the wear spots. So it's only going to get worse as the years goes on. Then the spray foam for the ceiling. It's actually a sealer that goes on the outside of the roof and not on the inside. It's got that hanging vinyl covered insulation inside now, and with the moisture and stuff in that environment, it wants to sag, and this would give us the ability to go ahead and get up there and cut all that out as we're up there repainting all the red steel this winter, and cut all that insulation out and have the whole roof sealed. So we got a drier environment inside there, and since '04, all those panels, the screws start loosening up, and this should cure all that. And then the infrared heaters, I don't know how much time you've spent in the pool in the winter time, but there's 6 gas heaters that are 20, 25 feet up in the air. And so those things just run wide open to try to keep the deck at a decent temperature in the winter time. And I can't imagine how much gas we're burning to try to do that. So looking around at different facilities, they have these infrared heaters that hang about, you've seen them, and some restaurants and places have them. And if we have those, stretched out around the deck, that heat's gonna keep the people comfortable as they're coming out of the pool.
Right.
And a heat from the pool and the infrared heaters is still gonna rise, but the way it is now, you're on the pool deck and it could be maybe upper 60s to mid 60s, and you get upstairs to go up and check on things up there, and it's 90 degrees in the dead of winter. We're just, losing a lot of heat the way it was designed. So we're just, talking to some people, figured out that this would be the thing to do, is to keep the heat down where it belongs. And then the upgrade on the heat and AC controls, it's something that Lance has been looking at, because all the different environments inside that recreation center, it's all the different rooms and the amounts of people in those rooms and no people in those rooms. It's something that needs to be more computer controlled, and that's what that $20,000 is there.
I think you had this in last year's budget, the stadium track resurface.
The stadium track resurface, I'm gonna continue to ask for that until I get it. The problem is, over the years, when you look at some of the older pictures, there's a concrete curb right on the edge of the track, or right on the edge of the field before it meets the track. And in the older pictures, it's 6 inches above. And so the water would drain off there real nice. Well, over the decades, they would just come in and lay another couple inches of asphalt on top of asphalt on top of it. And now the asphalt's actually a little bit taller, by an inch or two, than that concrete. So the water's trying to run off that field, and it just stops, because it's got nowhere to run to. Then it has to run down that little trough created on top of the concrete, which is only as wide as my hand. And so drainage has become a real issue in the football stadium. So for this amount of money, after talking to the asphalt people, they would mill it twice, and each milling would be about 2 inches. They'd go down and mill the entire thing, and then come back with 1.5 inches of fresh asphalt on top of it. And then again, talking to the asphalt people, what they told us we were doing wrong is, instead of just laying more asphalt on every 4 or 5 or 10 years, that every couple years you need the sealer put on it, like I've seen them do in big parking lots, where they shut down part of it and put this black sealer on it, and they said that keeps everything sealed in much better, and you won't have the cracks, as many cracks, and the asphalt just falling apart.
So they're gonna mill 4 inches and add 1.5 inches?
Correct.
So now the concrete will be higher than the asphalt?
Concrete will be higher, and the water will be able to run off the field, over the concrete, onto the track, and go where it's supposed to go, which is out to the drains.
So it goes across the track.
It goes across the track, and there's drains
Yeah.
between the fence and the track.
I know that track's not used much at all, but in the Special Olympics use that track, I believe, for events. Is it, I mean,
Special Olympics uses it, you know, that's the biggest day of the year for us. And then also, middle school normally holds one meet a year there. It's not so much, it's not so much about that as it is my drainage problem. Because we do play a lot of football games. You know, I've got JV freshmen, middle school, varsity, and then all throughout the soccer season, I've got, you know, JV and varsity boys and girls out there playing. And it's, I mean, it's a heavily used facility, and the drainage has just become a problem. Would I like to see it nicer on that day in March for Special Olympics? Yeah, I would, you know. And I don't think it's a huge investment. That's an old track, and we've never put a whole lot of money into that stadium.
where are we at on the, I'm getting a lot of feedback on handicap accessibility to that stadium. People are saying that we need improved handicap accessibility and we need to make some modifications to the stadium. Might be a good time to bring that up.
All right. I've put it in the budget a few times over the years. It's, you know, I think it's something that's really needed. And it's not just at the bleachers themselves, but access into the stadium, coming into either ticket gate, those ramps are too steep. So there needs to be a couple switchbacks coming into the stadium, and then once inside the stadium, the ADA compliancy says that you know, persons with any kind of disabilities should have the same seat visibility of a sports venue as anybody else. So they would have ramps going up to where the first seats are in the concrete bleachers. And it would, you know, give them seats, either walker, wheelchair, or any kind of walking disability, and it also gives them some companion seating. And it was $170,000.
This was in the capital projects fund for 160,000.
160, I'm sorry.
Right, but it is in the capital projects
That
fund
is in
budget,
the-
yes.
okay.
So,
And that would cover everything that we needed to be done?
that would cover,
Switchbacks and
that would, no, that would not cover, you know, I'd have to get somebody to, you know, do an overall design to get people in the ticket gates. This would be for the aluminum, that would be all in parts and labor to come in and make the bleachers compliant. You know, I think with the help that we have here in the city, you know, a design could be drawn up to do some switchbacks coming down right there in front of the restrooms and then down that hill on the visitor side as well. I don't think that'd be a huge expense to get done. It takes some earth moving and some asphalt to get those down, but I'd have to have an engineer draw those up. I happen to know one that's probably
Twice that.
capable. Huh?
It'll be twice that.
You think?
The 160, yeah.
For the aluminum?
It'll be 160 for the aluminum, it'll be
Yeah.
another 160 for everything to get to it.
Oh, you think?
I
That would
know
be
a
that
couple of them
expensive?
that work for the city, and they're both named Richard.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He says no.
I would think that'd be the easier part. You know, we put ADA ramp together and take it apart and move it around with our restroom, and I know it's a different, we're talking about apples and oranges, but, you know, we've got the room there to come down, you know, and make 2 or 3 back and forth. Or, you know, technically, at the track, the big drive-through gate at the north end, I mean, that's level. You know, that could be our ADA entrance for anybody who requires some assistance, and they could come right in there at track level.
Right.
And we wouldn't have to put any money into those.
Put handicap parking down there.
And you
by
gotta
that
have all the
entrance.
handicap parking at the bottom, which we have some.
We have quite a bit.
Yeah, but then we have that other just outside the fence.
Just
so
outside the
along
fence,
there.
but, you know, just the way that's all designed, that, it doesn't really seem usable. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
if
that's
somebody has a
not-
handicap sticker, they need to point them down to the north end of the stadium and park them down there.
Mhm.
And I just have to keep the volunteers in the concession stand from parking in those spots.
Okay.
Another parking problem.
What is a youth tennis court? What's the difference between a youth tennis court and a tennis court?
These are just miniature tennis courts to get the kids interested in the game. I don't have the exact dimensions right in front of me, but this would build 3 of them, which is about the size of a single tennis court. And then it's, it's divided into 3, and they're just for juniors, for kids, to get them interested in the game at a young age. They can be used, by any age, but they're small courts to be.
Are
to
they
get the kids.
asphalt tennis courts?
They will be asphalt with the rubberized material on top of it, the padding on it, yes. And, with us continually trying to grow the game of tennis, I think this is one way for we've got a lot of parents that are coming out now and bringing their kids out for some of the clinics and camps. And it's, it's just a miniature size of what the normal ones are. So if you've got a 6-year-old out there trying to hit, they're playing on the same court that a grown person would play. So this is just a miniature thing.
It's like dropping a basketball goal to 8 feet for the small kids.
Well, it's always amazed me that youth football plays on the same size field that the NFL plays on. Some of those kids are 6, 7 years old, and they're having to run the same distance that those guys do on Sundays.
Some of them run better than NFL.
Well, I'm looking at, the previous years, we've had, last year was 67,000 in capital improvements, and this year we're at 257. You're looking back at that sheet 21, so.
Well, there are some big items in there. That's for sure. And like the track, I've asked for numerous times, and
Right.
and the pool is going to be a big expense, but it's been open quite a while now, and it's a harsh environment. That building is, with all the moisture inside, it's a harsh environment, and it's time to bring it back up to where it needs to be. The work is ongoing now on the exterior of the pool. The contractor's got almost all the demolition done, and they've started putting the new framing up. It's coming along real well. And so the outside looking new, the inside needs some work. It needs to be modernized.
And Robert, on the Rex capital in particular, and I don't know why Rec is the only department that this really applies to, but when you're looking at the capital stuff for Rec, you always need to add those 2 line items together to compare it to the other years, because
Which two?
The
Purchase, capital purchase, vehicle equipment, and capital improvement?
yes.
Okay.
So if you add the 2 together, it's not that much different, because he's under on one and over on the other.
So, 373. 373 versus 392. Jill, is that right? Did I do that right?
392 for 19, and are you
Mhm.
doing the projected for
Budgeted,
18?
18, budget 18, 373. I guess I could look at the.
That's 354. Do you have 287, 800, and 66,
Yeah.
700?
Yeah,
That's
right. I have to do it.
354, 500.
47, yeah,
Yeah.
354, right. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any more questions on that? What am I leaving out on rec, Tom?
What are you leaving out?
Yeah.
The docks.
Oh, the marina.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the marina.
Thought we'd slip by without that one coming up.
I'm on page 24. There's a note on the marina that says that we didn't meet revenue goals because we didn't implement the DACWA software. Can we really say that that was the sole reason we didn't make budget? I mean, we don't know what exactly that would have generated, do we?
We don't know. We just know that it gets out to more people through that system.
I think the fuel dock was a little slower. It took a little longer to get all that together than we thought, and some other things as well.
It did. We had to get all the bugs worked out, and then, personally, I don't know that the heat of the summers is the busiest boating season. I think we're just coming into one of the busier ones right now.
Yeah, I definitely think we're gonna have a much better 2019.
I think we will too. We have people all the time that stop in and didn't know we were in the fuel business, so.
Where do we stand on the DACWA? I know our city attorney had said that there was some language that had to be in the contract that was state mandated, and it wasn't in there, so he didn't feel comfortable with us signing it. And I don't
I'll have to look
I
back.
disagree with Lynn back there so much that it seems kind of trivial, some of that. I don't want to go against, I'm not an attorney, Jay, but have you looked at that? I mean,
I've looked at what our attorney's opinion he's given, and I don't advise that you disregard what your attorney says. It's there for your protection.
I mean, it's like there's like one little disclaimer or something that's not in the contract, and they don't have it in their form, and we've tried to add it and say, all right, you got to put this in there, and then we can sign this contract.
I would say go back and look through the history of litigation and see how many people said there was just one little thing in there that didn't seem to
Well,
matter.
is
and find out
DACWA used
how-
anywhere else in the state?
I couldn't tell you, I don't know.
Lynn, do you know? Is DACWA used anywhere else in the state?
In the state of Alabama.
Right.
Actually, it's used by Dog River.
It's used by Dog River?
Yeah, but not by municipalities. That's been the issue.
Okay. All right. All right, well, maybe we can get them to change it and then add the language that we need. Right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if it is so trivial, there should be no
Right,
issue
let them
with
add
getting
it.
them to add it. That's why
Yeah.
might not be so trivial.
all right.
We'll take a look at that again and go back after that.
Yeah, I just think we need to stay on
We will.
we need to stay on them to change
I
it to
understand.
make it work for us. If that's truly costing us so much.
We'll jump into the
Yeah.
capital purchases again, showing a barge for dredging. I know what a
This-
barge for dredging is, but does the city of Fairhope need to be?
I think, knowing what those kind of companies charge to come in and do maintenance at the slips and ride around our basin, I think that, I gotta believe that would pay for itself within a couple of years, because that's an awful expensive ordeal to have somebody come in and remove all that. Where, I think if the city had one, over the years, it would more than pay for itself to keep the slips all maintained, keep them cleaned out real well.
When was the last time the marina was dredged?
I have no idea, but I know that at some of the low tides, the boats are sitting on sand. And we have to pick and choose where we can pit a boat because some slips are deeper than others. And, you know, there's been some talk too that, you know, our neighbors across the creek, you know, may, at some point, if we can work it out financially, you know, lease it from us so that their slips can be maintained as well. And looking at some of the sites that sell these dredges, from $50,000 to $150,000, you can buy a pretty decent small dredge that's gonna suck it up, put it back on our property, let it de-water, and with the equipment that the city has with the loader and a dump truck, you could do maintenance, you know, fairly reasonable compared to having somebody come in and do it for you at their cost. I think it's something that would more than pay for itself over the years and have a better marina with the deeper slips.
You know, we've been putting a lot of money into it, or we're putting more and more, and so we're projecting a $312,000 loss, and I realize I almost call 200 of that channel dredging. If you take that out, you're still at a 112, and it's really $115,000.
It was in bad
loss.
shape when we took it over, and, you know, with the sea walls that need to be replaced, we have to fix the place up, or, you know, if we leave it like it is, it's just gonna be exactly what it is. And
Do we have that in the seawall? Is there seawall repair included in
I think
that?
there's $300,000 in there for a
Where is that?
seawall replacement.
Looking capital projects.
Yeah.
What page is that capital projects on? Jill?
But I don't see that coming out of, I don't see that under the expenses in that.
The marina renovations say 400,000 over in capital projects fund. I'm not sure what page it's
What I'm saying
on.
is it's not in the line item of expenses.
Mhm.
So instead of losing 312, it's losing 712 then. If you're
Well, it's a large project, that's why it was put in capital projects fund.
Yeah, you said you didn't know why that other was put in that budget. I like it being in there, so I can see. So really, like I said, the losses that year go from 312 to 700, and it's really about 715,000.
But again, we're building something almost from the ground up. I mean, we do have income coming in with the slip rental and now the fuel sales. But there's a lot of things down there that have just been neglected, and it's unsafe. And we have to start somewhere with the improvements, and the seawall is a basic place to start. Because some of those are so rotten that, you know, the water's coming in.
I don't disagree with replacing the seawall, it's just, you know, the barge, I see barge, and I think, who's gonna operate that? Then we're gonna have a barge master, then the barge master's gonna need an assistant, because when the
On
barge
page
master ain't gonna
33.
do everything, so it's just one more step.
It
at
is,
growing
but I
what's-
think with the employees that we have, it's not something that you're gonna have to do every day. But when time allows, you know, the manager or, you know, or another employee could go out there and move a few boats and get on it for the better part of the day, put the boats back where they belong, and you could be done for the day or done for the week. And then, you know, when time allows, you know, get in there and hit it real hard and maybe work 3 or 4 or 5 days straight on the thing and get as much cleaned out as you can. And I know the city's not really in the rental business or in the partnership business, but I'm sure that, you know, the folks across the creek would love to have access to that too. We, you know, decided on a fee to where either we did it or leased them the piece of equipment. That's just a thought. Because they need some maintenance over there as well. So, you know, at this time, I wouldn't be asking for any more help.
What was that number in that barge? I didn't do it.
80,000.
80. Is the 197 budgeted for the dredging just our estimated portion partnering with
That's correct.
the yacht club, or we still don't have any, we don't have any pledges from the marina there, the
Not for
private
Black
marina?
Creek.
Okay. They definitely benefit from the channel.
I agree.
Okay.
But I think their argument is that most of their boats, the majority of their boats are the small center councils that don't draw a lot of water, and they're just fine the way they are.
True, too. Questions on the docks? Kevin, you have any?
I'm kind of proponent to getting it.
Hmm?
So I'm a proponent to get it. I think it'll save you money overall for the dredging that you'll be doing.
I gotta believe it will.
Every time you had to sign up to do a dredging. I don't know.
And as we go through this process, though, it'd be nice if we had and it's just a lot of work, I know, Jill, because, we go to, working double time to get every year's budget, but just if, when you see these big expenditures, when you see a big loss in something like the Fairhope docks, if you could project it for, well, this is this year, but then next year is gonna pay, and then in 3 years, we're generating significant revenue. But we can't take a $700,000 loss every year on something that we had no loss just a couple of years ago. Yeah, I mean, it needs to, we need to start
Okay.
seeing some return, or then you start wondering, is it an amenity or is it a cash drain?
Well, at the moment, it's kind of a cash drain. I agree that it is, but I mean, we have to bring it up to a quality to get more people in there. And there's some slips that just aren't usable at this time because of the silting in. And it's same with the electricity, we're gonna have to spend some money on that.
I
And
thought
get that
I
up
thought we've already issued a contract for that, for some of that.
for the engineering. To get it engineered.
We've got pedestals ordered.
Right.
We've got the pedestals in, they're here for the 10 pedestals. It's all just little steps we're taking, but, we have to have a quality place to bring in quality people.
I understand. I just, it was a big number. I didn't expect to see that this year.
I understand that. I get it. It's scary, but, all we're trying to do is bring it up to where it is an attractive place and a nice place where, once somebody comes, they'll tell their friends about it, and their friends will come back. And we get on Docwa and get it all advertised there as well.
Joe, we got 5 minutes before we have to start a council meeting. Do you have something real pressing you want to go over real quick? But we need to probably take a quick break. They need to move some
Yeah.
stuff around.
I think we should probably stop. It's 5 minutes till 6, so we can get other stuff later.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks,
Hey,
Joe.
Tom.
Thank you.